Welcome to the Niche Pursuits Podcast. Are you ready to discover some niche business ideas that actually work? Well, it's time for a motivational kick to jumpstart your next big idea. Here's your host, Spencer Haas.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Niche Pursuits Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Haas from nbsp.com. And before I jump into the interview today, I just wanted to introduce our guest. We have Chris Guthrie from EntrepreneurBoost.com. Now, Chris and I have known each other for quite a while. In fact, we've met each other in person a couple of times. He lives in Seattle in Washington. I live on the other side of the state here in Washington. And so we met up back in Seattle. We were also just recently at a business conference where we both were actually presenters at the conference. But we've crossed paths quite a bit. We both started out building affiliate sites. He started building Amazon affiliate sites. I was always building out the AdSense affiliate sites, but as our businesses have evolved, we've stayed in touch quite a bit. And Chris is always doing very interesting things. And in fact, Chris and I actually have teamed up on a previous business. We created the niche website theme together. And that's been out for a few years now. And we've done other things, sort of on the side as we followed along with each other's businesses. So I know Chris quite well. We're on Skype together every now and again to make sure that we know what's going on for each other in our businesses. But what Chris has been doing lately in his business has me intrigued quite a bit. He's been selling physical products on Amazon. And he's been sourcing these products from China. Basically, the process, as he describes here in our interview, is he finds those products that are already selling well on Amazon, and then he finds how he can private label that product, how he can tweak that product to make it a little bit better and a little bit different. Then he sources that from a manufacturer in China, and then he sells it on Amazon. Chris has only been doing this for about 4 months or so, but already with his very first product, in his last full month, he made over $12,000 in revenue. And of course, that's not bottom line profits, but he says that his profits are about half of that. So a significant business already that he's only been doing in a few hours, really in his spare time, because he has other businesses that he's running as well. And so this is a model that he's seen work very well with not only himself, but also with a mastermind group that he runs. There's lots of people that are seeing significant success with this business as well. And so during this podcast, we dive into hopefully all the questions that you would want to ask to get your first product up and running on Amazon. Now, in addition to that, Chris has created a software tool that helps you find what is selling well on Amazon, some of those Amazon bestseller rankings, to do keyword research on Amazon. And that tool is called AmaSuite. And so that's something that we talk about as well. It's a tool that he uses to help him find and sell products on Amazon. And so if you want to find out more about that product, you can, of course, go through my link and go to nichepursuits.com/AmaSuite. That's AMA Suite, which is SUITE. So nichepursuits.com/AmaSuite. So overall, I hope you enjoy the interview that I do here with Chris Guthrie. He's always got some great business advice. He's doing very well in his business. And hopefully, if you are interested in selling a product on Amazon, this podcast will provide some tips for you. So thanks for listening. And here's the interview. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Niche Pursuits Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Haas from nbsp.com. And of course, I have Perrin with me, my co-host. Perrin, how you doing over there?
Pretty good. Can you guys hear a tuba in the background?
Nope, not at the moment.
Good. My neighbor was practicing. He picked the worst time to practice his tuba.
Maybe we'll
It's not a joke.
Maybe we'll get to hear some tuba playing later. That would be good interlude music, perhaps. So, but we've got a guest with us, Chris Guthrie. He's been on the podcast before, but he's doing some awesome things in his business that we want to dive into. So, Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Spencer. Thanks, Baron.
Yep, welcome back. I think it's actually been almost 2 years, maybe even more than 2 years since you were officially on my podcast. You were one of my very first guests, and so a lot has changed, I'm sure.
Dang, yeah, it's a long time.
I know, it has been quite a while. So why don't you just give us a quick rundown what you're doing in your business right now? Where are you putting most of your time at the moment?
Yeah, maybe real quick, just for our listeners who may be as new as I am, Chris is one of the masterminds behind EasyAzon, which is a product that we recommend to basically everybody who's building these types of niche sites we've been building. And he's, has an awesome blog, which I'm sure we will stick in the intro.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Baron.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess I could touch on that one. I mean, EasyAzon and another WordPress plugins, that's a business that I'm running right now through boostwp.com. And we offer a bunch of different plugins that are related to helping you with marketing, right? About marketing, traffic generation, lead generation, monetizing your website. And so EasyAzon kind of fits into that latter pillar. And I mean, that's one of the primary focuses is that WordPress business. But then also too, I'm really passionate about this Amazon business I've been building of selling physical products on Amazon. And it's kind of like a full circle thing because I started with Amazon's affiliate program way back in 2009. And that's ultimately what helped me when I got fired from my day job, be able to keep working or keep living on my internet business. But and then that led to EasyAzon. And so now I'm doing Amazon Fulfilled by FBA, and I've done some Kindle books. So basically, unless I'm missing something, I've pretty much made money from everything that you can with Amazon.
It seems to be working pretty well for you too, right? You've been on the Amazon platform, and they're a huge company, and there's a lot of different avenues that you can go there. So, and again, people that maybe don't know Chris's story, he briefly mentioned that he built up a huge Amazon affiliate site that kind of supported him when he lost his day job, and you sold that for a six-figure amount. What was that, back in 2011 maybe?
2010 actually. Yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah,
but then I kind of helped use some of that money to do. I mean, I had the money available to do the other things, but some of it was used to do EasyAzon and other types of projects as well. So,
yep.
Yeah, but yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can do with Amazon. Excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you've got quite a few things going on in your business. You have certainly the affiliate sites that you've created and everything that you mentioned on Amazon. You're selling software as well. I know you also buy and sell websites. You were at a conference recently speaking. The both you and I attended Rhodium Weekend, which was a lot of fun. It was, out in Vegas, a smaller conference. I think there was under 50 attendees. That's how they like to do it. And you spoke on buying and selling websites. So you certainly have an area of expertise there as well. But today for the podcast, I do want to focus almost exclusively on what you're doing with the Amazon FBA program. It's something that I've never done myself, and I'm intrigued by it. I've seen the success that you've had recently and others have had. And so I want to treat this podcast really as a training podcast for myself. I want to ask all the questions that, I want to know the answers to if I'm going to go out and put a product on Amazon and start selling. So first, before we dive into the step-by-step though, why don't you give people an idea of the recent success that you have had selling a physical product on Amazon?
Yeah, so pretty much I've been selling for less than 4 months now. And then so my last full month was October at the time we're recording this. It's November 2014. And in October, it was, I have to remember the number. I think it was like $12,800 in revenue, which roughly half of that is profit. And so pretty quickly, that was my third full month. It's been going pretty well. And in November, it's on track to at least do that. But, we're going to head into Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And I'm going to continue to make hundreds to thousands of dollars from work that I put in earlier, and while I play some video games on the weekend or something and relax a bit during the Black Friday, Thanksgiving time frame.
Nice. So, yeah, you're having huge success there. I mean, anybody that's doing, over $10,000 a month in sales after just a few months doing that, I mean, that kind of opens my eyes a little bit, right? That makes me think, okay, what's going on here? And so how much time at this point, now that you've sourced your product and, things are kind of rocking and rolling there, how much time would you say you're putting on a daily or a weekly basis in at least the one product that you have right now?
So the one product that I have, like for example, we're doing this on I don't even know, today's a Wednesday, yeah. So,
yep.
I mean, I didn't even check my stats over the weekend, for example, and I had a couple of really good days, like 35 units on one day and then 20 something on the other. And so I didn't even check my stats and made a few $100 or maybe like $400 actually, I guess, if I add those together. But I don't spend very much time on it. It's a lot of it's initial work. You do have to do ongoing work, but at least for this product, it's been going pretty well. It's almost like I have to prove to myself that I'm not fluking. I don't have a fluke or something.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure that that I've got a pretty good process down now, and really it's just kind of about scaling out to other products. But to answer your question, it's not very much time. I'd say less than 30 minutes a day on the one product. But most of my time is focused now on finding new products that I can do.
Right, and that's what I assumed, is that you were putting more time into the research and finding doing everything that you needed to launch additional products. And so I do want to take it back to step one here, and explain to people the overall business, maybe people that don't quite understand what we're still talking about as far as selling a physical product. I mean, what exactly are you doing? I mean, do you have stacks and stacks of boxes in your apartment that you're shipping out? Kind of go through, from A to B here, steps A to B, kind of what's going on, what is this business all about?
Yes, I'll do that. So basically the way that I make money from Amazon's Fulfilled by Amazon program is by sourcing products. I specifically source from China, but you can also source from the U.S. U.S. is typically something that's like a supplement or a skin cream or something that you wouldn't really necessarily want to buy from China, just for quality concerns,
right?
And I guess health concerns. But so I primarily source from China, and that's where I want to stay because my strategy is to kind of go after lower to medium. Anyways, I'm actually kind of not answering your question very well. So let me take a few steps back. Basically, I'm finding products in China, making some tweaks to them, nothing super major that would require, that's basically a brand new unique product, and then putting my label on the product, my own brands, and then importing it to the U.S. and selling it through Amazon. And then the reason why this business is so great is that when I import it from China to the U.S., first of all, I pay a freight forwarding company, so I don't even have to deal with. I've never even had customs, a customs agent or anyone else contact me or email anything like that because I let the freight forwarder handle it. And then once it gets to their warehouse in the U.S., they slap the labels on there and ship them off to Amazon, all the different boxes. And then Amazon handles all the distribution. So
yeah,
pretty much you're able to leverage their supply chain. And then also the fact that because you're through FBA, then it's also a Prime eligible shipping option too. And since there's tens of millions of people that have Prime, they're often more likely to buy those products than people that are using their own distribution. So, and then Amazon that's the other thing too, is Amazon handles all of the shipping and customer contact, refunds, etc. I just get emails say, oh, someone refunded. And I think, great, I'm glad they refunded and that they didn't email me because I'm coming from the software business background where it's, you've got people emailing you and you've got to answer support questions and provide good customer support. But with this, it's not as much. I don't get that many emails at all, really.
Yeah, it really is fascinating to me. I mean, yes, you're dealing with physical products and you're really shipping things, but you're not actually doing any of that. Amazon is handling all of the shipping out of their warehouse, and they're doing, like you said, the refunds and the customer support. So really, it's just like an online business, just like you're selling software online almost, because you're not actually touching any of the product. And somebody else is handling all the customer support.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much set up in that manner. And then, really it's just a matter or two of, I think the key really is being able to use Amazon's warehouses, right? Because otherwise,
right.
If you have to use your own warehouse, then you're adding a level of complexity. I mean, there are fulfillment centers that you can use that aren't Amazon, and so you can use those. But I mean, I don't have a warehouse space. I don't have any boxes being sent to my house. I've never been to the post office for this business. All samples that I've received have just come to my front door from China. I'm using express mail through like DHL or something, and that's pretty much the basis for it. And I mean, going back to your earlier point too about success, I mean, I've only been doing it for 4 months, but I have friends and friend acquaintances, as I call them, where it's, we're friendly through Skype and all that, but maybe I might not know them as well, but they're doing, even better, 6 figures a month on up to more than that. So there's a crazy amount of scalability.
Yeah, I've heard some of the success stories, people doing, these big numbers that you talk about. And so there's a lot of potential there. I want to give people listening the best chance possible to kind of take some actionable steps after this podcast. So hopefully if we put our heads together, we can figure out, what those questions are maybe that people are having. And I know you talk to people a lot about this business, so I'm sure you know the most common questions that people are asking, but I'm going to start with my own. Okay. A huge part of this process is picking the right product to sell. And I don't think that you want to sell or mention the product that you're selling specifically, but maybe you can give us an example of somebody that's doing, something similar, that is sourcing from China and selling that product on Amazon. Can you give us any types of examples just to start with, and then I do want to talk about, how do you research and find out what product to source in the first place?
Yeah. So the idea really is, you do research, right? So you look at Amazon.com to see what's selling. So the way I like to run pretty much any business that I run is, what is the simplest thing that I could do to have results, and then try not to overcomplicate things, right? So this business's model is simple if you think of it from the standpoint of, you're just trying to sell something that is already being purchased by people, right? So if you look on Amazon.com, they tell you what people are buying because they show the bestseller rank. So pretty much the basis and the foundation for the research process is looking at Amazon.com, looking at the bestseller rank, and then specifically looking at that rank within its primary category. So if you're to go to Amazon.com/bestsellers right now, you'll see there are, I think, 24 categories. I don't know if that might be something like that, right? A few dozen categories, where it's toys and games, video games, although that wouldn't be a category. And so each of those categories, you're going to see different types of products, right? You can see the top 100 products are selling. Now, specifically what I like to do is I like to go after products that are in the 500 bestseller rank down to 2,000 bestseller rank. And so basically the idea is to try and avoid some of the people that are going after the high competition, because when you're within the top 100, I'd say maybe more top 10, depending on the category. I mean, I have friends now that I've met at the event that I went to that they're doing 6 figures a month with a single one product, right? So, and which sounds unbelievable to hear. But then when you think about Amazon, as large as they are, and how many tens of millions of credit cards of Americans, myself, I'm sure you, Spencer and Perrin, all have accounts on Amazon and purchase something. It really doesn't seem that crazy, right? If you go to, Home and Kitchen and you're the number one or top few products in there, then it's very easy to see that's a 7-figure business. And so that's kind of the idea, though, right? Is you go to Amazon.com, you look at the bestseller ranking, and so then we built software that we use for our group and all that goes out beyond that. But there's like a manual method you can find products to. You just go into that bestseller page, and then you can kind of dive through into deeper and deeper categories until you find products that are selling well, but that aren't necessarily as high. That's just the way I do it, though.
Okay. A couple of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot there, for sure. And so to remind me, you said something about you try to look below 5,000 or above 5,000?
Yeah. So I'll clarify that. So again, you're using Amazon for the research purposes,
right,
to see what's selling. But the way that I'm trying to build this business is not by going after the top type products, right? I'm okay building up a business. It sounds silly saying, but I'm okay building up a business that's, $100,000 a month with a dozen or maybe 18 products or so, right? I'm okay with doing that as opposed to doing $100,000 a month with one product.
Right. So
because, the competition, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So sorry to interrupt, but I'm just doing a live example here. I'm on the bestsellers for pet supplies. I clicked on the pet supplies just randomly, category. There's the number one seller is like a kitty litter type thing. And there's several of those. So I don't want to look at this first page. You're saying go down quite a bit deeper.
Yeah, so when you click on Amazon.com/bestsellers and click a category, on that left-hand side column, and Amazon's had the same menu system for a long time now, so I don't think it will change anytime soon, but on that left-hand side, you'll see drop-down things you can go, and you can kind of dive down deeper and deeper.
Right, so under pets, there's birds, cats, dogs, horses, insects.
Right.
So,
and when you're looking at these, are you looking for a type of product, or are you looking for a specific actual brand? I'm looking at the beauty category and I see a Revlon hairdryer. Is that what you're looking at, or are you seeing that hair dryers are selling here and then you're going to a supplier and trying to find some hairdryer to sell?
Yeah, that's basically the process. But I'm not necessarily looking for a hairdryer per se. I'm not, so electronics is a really huge category, and that's not one that I'm in at this time. But it is a category that I'd like to get into eventually because the volume's there. And that's the thing too I should mention is that each category on Amazon has different sales volumes. And that's actually what I've been trying to crack is to get data so that I can see exactly how many sales is generated by the bestseller rank for within every category. That's kind of the project I'm working on. So the electronics is going to be a little more complex. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to go more basic. So mine's an inanimate object type of thing, and not too complex.
Right. So to keep going with my example here, I clicked on pet supplies, I clicked on dogs, and now there's tons of other things. There's apparel and accessories, there's collars and harnesses, doors and gates and ramps. So do I just how deep do I go here, and what am I looking for? So if I click on doors, gates, and ramps,
you look at them to see. Then you kind of look at individual products, and you say, okay, this product is 1,500 in pets. Then you'll know, okay, that's a pretty decent volume. Now the only reason why I know that is because I know that those ranks are pretty solid. I don't know the exact specific number of sales for that category. And each bestseller ranking, but yeah.
So okay, so I clicked on doors, gates and ramps under pet supplies. I'm gonna just click on randomly one of these gates, and when I click on the individual product, you're saying that's where I can see where it ranks overall. Is that correct?
Exactly, yeah. And you should be able to just scroll down. It's under the product details section, I believe. And it's below the photos, below the product description, and then down below that where the ASIN ID is listed, you can also see that information as well. And it should just say bestseller, number whatever in this category.
Okay, let's see. Okay, and so you want to find, is there a magic number? Or does it just depend on the category then?
I mean, it sort of depends on the category, but I know that just if you're within the 500 to 2,000 range, then that's already a decent enough volume to be like, okay, let's just try for this.
Okay,
that's been my approach to this so far.
So 500 to 2,000.
Yeah, but I mean, again, you can also go after the top stuff. I mean, the guy that I learned from, he was going after the top 100 type products, and then his best month this year was $500,000 in sales. So
wow. You
can go the super crazy end, but then there's also a lot more games that are played at that level because that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say we've done that. We found several interesting products that are within that sort of sales rank that we can clearly see are making a lot of sales. What else is there to it? What else are you looking for? Because certainly there's more than just does the product sell well. How do you determine if you can actually make a dent in sales, with existing competition?
Yeah, so what you'll look at part of it is to see how many reviews the product has, and then how well the listing is done, right? I mean, you with your software business, you know that there are different things you can say on your Longtail Pro sales page, for example, that can improve conversions. But a lot of times, these companies that are representing larger brands, or that they just they make this product and Amazon is just one of 25 different places they sell, they don't really optimize their listings, right? So there might be a single individual image, a poor description, and that it doesn't really rank for that many keywords. And then the product description might be one line or nothing really, right? And so if you can find a combination of those factors, and even if you can't, right, you know that if someone else is selling the product, it's something that you can go out and source, then you can sell it as well. But that's kind of the part of it, right? Is you look to see how well the listing's been optimized, because then there's things that you can do that can improve that, right? So if you are you more likely to sell a product that has 9 or whatever, how many high quality images on Amazon, or are you more likely to sell something where it's just a single individual image that might not even be the high resolution, so you can't even zoom in on it, and your description isn't very good, right? And you've not mentioned your warranty, if there is one, or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of, it's sort of, that could be an entire podcast in and of itself, is just talking about conversions and sales. But again, that's something you could also pay someone to do too. There are copywriters that do Amazon listings. But anyways, I know we're getting off track, so let's
No, this is good. This is all good stuff. So I'm kind of live trying to do some research here. So I'm still in the pet supplies market. I ended up clicking on it's a top load pet kennel. So a little dog kennel, just a little carrying one. Sells for $26 here. There's only one product image. There's no sub description. It just says PetMate 2-door top load pet kennel is what I'm looking at, and there's no additional description. And there are some bullet points and things like that, but and it's overall, it's number 355 in pet supplies overall, and then has some other ranks in different categories.
Yeah.
So let's say this is one that I want to do. I mean, how do I determine, is size and price and other things a determining factor?
Yeah. So there'll be a few different things you can do, right? So once you've identified a product that you think you can sell, then you've also got to go over and find a manufacturer that can create it for you. Mm-hmm. And then, the other steps too, like you want to make sure that you're not infringing on a patent, right? You're not doing something that's patented. And that actually is probably, that's another discussion that could be a lot longer time period. But ultimately, you want to make sure that you're like, okay, cool, this thing that says patent pending in the description, you might want to confirm that they actually have a patent, but then also you might not want to do that, right? Because that would be dumb.
Right. Yep.
So if you check those things off the list, and I won't focus too much on them because I'm not a lawyer, and generally if you want to go like that, you can do that. But go to Alibaba.com, who just had their IPO, and they're massively huge, largest IPO in U.S. history.
Yep.
And I'll start searching for that specific product. So whatever, I can't remember the name of it was. I think it was PetMate something, but I wouldn't use that because that sounds like a brand name. You use like, was it dog kennel? Is it
pet kennel? Yeah, top load pet kennel.
Yeah, so you'd say top load pet kennel, right, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would just look to see what's available on Amazon. Now, I believe that's probably a larger thing, right? Though. It's a pretty large product.
It's for a smaller dog, I think, so it is one that you can, but yes, I mean, it's a little bit larger. It looks like 24 inches by 16 inches is sort of the size.
Okay, yeah. So we can continue that example, but I mean, that's another thing to be aware of. And it sounds like we're kind of going all over the place, but when you're selling on Amazon, there are different, and you're using FBA, then there are different sizes of products you can sell, and if something's within a specific size, it can be a standard size. You're allowed 5,000 units to start, but if it's larger, then it would be an oversized type unit, right? So oversized only allows for 500. And this is just a starting type range, and then as you sell more, Amazon grants you more and more space in increments of, I believe, 60% increases or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyways, that's another thing to factor in as well. So usually you want to go after something that's, smaller, lightweight, and then, maybe under $50, but then also probably more than $10 or so, because you want to be able to have enough margin to account for the FBA fees, the category fees, and then also your product costs.
Mm-hmm.
But so you go over to Alibaba and you search for the specific product that you'd like to do, and you start to contact suppliers. You look for things like how long has the supplier been around, to see if they've had the various checks like on-site check and verified that they've been verified, because these are different types of quality indicators to confirm that they're a more legit operation. You can also look at the volumes that they report in terms of their revenue. But a lot of times too, you have to just talk to them to see if there's someone that can actually to do what you want to do. And so you'd go about the process of contacting them, and usually, because they're based in China, of course, you're going to be, for me at least, 4 p.m. my time, we're on the West Coast, is when they all start hopping onto Skype. And so that's usually when I start to talk to suppliers.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
And then also too, and then if I'm staying up late doing work, then midnight's usually when I'll be done, and they'll be around done at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Before we move on too much onto the suppliers, Perrin, do you have any follow-ups on sort of looking at competition or picking a product?
Yeah, so you mentioned looking for areas on which you could improve. So, like, as I'm looking through a lot of these products, because I'm, sort of doing some live real-time learning right now as well, some of them have like fantastic descriptions with tons of pictures, and some of them don't have any. Are we looking at that from like an SEO standpoint, where like we can rank these product pages for keywords and that kind of thing? Or are we looking at it purely from a sales standpoint, like these better descriptions are just going to, convert better?
From a sales and also rankings on Amazon standpoint, right? So the rankings on Amazon would be more valuable than the rankings from Google. Well, for the most part, I believe. There's not really a way you can check. Amazon doesn't give that breakdown like, oh, this is traffic from Google or this is traffic from Amazon. Not that I'm aware of, at least. Again, like I said before, I like to keep this simple, right? I just focus on what I need to know to get the results and the maximum results, and then kind of go on from there. But anyways, yeah. So you look at it from the sales standpoint, but also too from being able to rank individually. And I should qualify too that I learned from a course. I don't have to talk about the course here, but I learned from a course that goes way in depth in this. So when we're condensing it all into 1 hour or so, or however long we go for, there's still probably a lot of questions. So anyone that has questions, I'm happy to hop onto your show notes and answer questions. And again, this is coming from someone that's, admittedly, I'm only 4 months into this selling, but we have our own mastermind group, and so I've learned a lot from other people selling as well. So, and I'm doing it a lot myself. So.
Yep, absolutely. No,
totally.
No, that makes sense as far as the product listing and everything like that. And there's going to be a lot of questions. That's why we're trying to get as much out of you as quickly as possible for free, right?
There you go.
So I went over to Alibaba.com and I searched for pet kennels. I didn't find any of the size that I was on Amazon, but I found sort of a pet carrying bag, so one that would be a size and shape that you could fold up and ship a lot easier. Let's just imagine this is the product that we wanted to do. And so I want to contact a few of these pet carry bag manufacturers. And what specifically do you ask them? How do you pick a good manufacturer? I know you mentioned some of the things you can look at, online, but when you actually talk to them or email them, what are some red flags or what are some good signs?
Yes, a lot of it too is just making sure you've checked those different variables in Alibaba when you're doing your search. But then also when you start talking to them, I pretty much exclusively talk to suppliers through Skype and not through Skype voice, because they almost always prefer to do it through text. Because again, English isn't their primary language, and I'm just an ignorant American that only knows English anyways. So they prefer to do text chat through Skype.
Right.
And so that's typically what I do. And then I'll go back and forth, and then I look for their responsiveness, their ability to understand what it is I'm asking. Usually in the later parts of the evening, it's funny. This is almost universally true. They always say things like, you need to go to bed. Why are you up so up? But anyways, that's a random comment. But yeah, that's pretty much, through Skype. And then, yeah, I mean, ultimately you want to get a sample, right? You're never going to go out and order, 500 units without actually feeling and seeing the product yourself. I specifically like to order samples that include my logo already put onto them. But you don't have to do that, right? You could look at the sample product quality first, but that might just take you a little bit longer because you might look at the quality of a bunch of different suppliers and then decide, okay, this is the one I want. And now I want to see the print quality of their labels, or I want to see what their tag quality might be if they're going to stitch a tag on or something. But yeah, so that's part of it as well. But yeah,
No, that makes sense. I have a follow-up to that. So
Okay.
Again, going with my pet carry bag, just so we can talk about an actual product. I'm looking at some of these. There's several manufacturers, and it looks like a lot of them are producing the exact same bag, right? The same style. All their pictures are exactly the same. So there's several manufacturers that could do the exact same product. When I'm going to source a product, do I want to change that product, improve that product? So I'm looking at this to make it stand out from Amazon. Do I want to, produce exactly what's already on Amazon, or should I, make the handles different, for this example, or a different color, or how different do I need to make my product from what is already out there?
Yeah, so another thing during the Amazon review, research phase, is to look at the negative reviews of what people are saying. If they're saying something like, for example, the handle on this bag isn't very comfortable, right? So you're carrying your pet, then you could say to your supplier, hey, what can I do to make what's the best handle, most padding you can put into it, right?
Gotcha.
Because that's something they can customize, and it's not like a mold, like a Lego brick mold or something, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where they can't do any customization. So that'd be like an example of something to use that product. But that's kind of what you do, right? And then you'd also maybe look, say there's different colors. You'd look to see maybe what the most popular color is. Usually a neutral color is probably better to start with.
Sure.
Rather than trying to, say, go after a pink one, because then you're going to limit it typically to just the female audience if you're doing that. Sounds sexist saying it, but don't intend that.
No, but that's a good point. So for pretty much, is it safe to say then for pretty much every product that you do, you want to change up the product somehow? Is that at least how you approach that?
I mean, the idea really is that because you're selling on a marketplace that is very review driven, like if you think about your own shopping habits, when I go to Amazon.com to buy something, I pretty much never buy something that's under 4 stars, 3.5 stars.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I would buy that, right?
Right.
Now, some categories, I won't mention that. I was going to say some categories you'll see there's so much competition. There's a lot of stuff that is just 3.5 stars and under, like, for example, like cell phone cases or whatever, because you've got competitors that are, anyways, but I get sidetracked easily, I think, when I talk about all this because there's just a lot of stuff bouncing around.
No, that's okay. It's all good.
But yeah, so that's part of it, right? Is you look, because you're on a marketplace and it's very review driven, you want a product that is high quality, because otherwise, if you buy the version that's the lowest price one that they offer, then you're going to get slaughtered in the reviews when customers actually start buying it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of what you don't want to do. And
that's what I actually was an aha moment for me. I mean, I haven't actually done this yet, but I've been reading about it a little bit. And when I first heard about people, just sourcing products from China and essentially selling what's already being sold on Amazon, just slapping a private label on it and not changing the product whatsoever, I was like, how can that even work? Like, why would people buy your product over somebody else's? And that's still possible, through marketing and improved product description and better pictures, even if you have the exact same product as somebody else. But what makes it a real business, I think, at least in my mind, having no experience whatsoever in this, but just business in general, is you have to do something a little bit different. So if I were to jump into this, I would want to make sure that I improved the product. I added a padded handle on this pet carrying bag or whatever, so it stood out at least a little bit and was different from existing competition.
Yeah. And then another thing to mention too is that if you're going after, that's almost like next level too. If you think about, okay, what can I do that's truly unique? Then you're talking like Kickstarter and stuff like that. There's a higher risk when you're kind of creating something entirely brand new, but the idea is you're selling something that people are already buying.
Right.
Versus, like for example, that I'm not sure if you saw it, but the new way to fill up water balloons faster. This guy did a Kickstarter and I think it raised like $1 million. His goal was only 10,000. Because it was truly a unique and better way of doing a water balloon. I didn't buy any because I was like, well, I'm 30, and my kids are too young right now. So
I was gonna say, in a few years, your twins will want some, though.
Yeah, but I will be buying those because it's like, so that's like, but there's bigger risk there versus, I know this product is selling or this category is selling. Let me do my own thing and see what I can do that's like a twist and then improve the marketing. And that's, for me, that's the strategy. And then ultimately, I would like to go on and maybe do truly unique type things eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that makes sense. And so let's move the process along here because there's tons more questions that come after you even get your product. So let's say I'm all in with this pet carrying bag. We figured out how to make it a little bit different. We found our manufacturer. Well, as you mentioned, first we get a sample from that. You make sure that looks good. And then you have to do some sort of minimum order. I'm on Alibaba again. They say a minimum order for this pet carrying bag is 200 pieces. So I need to get 200 pieces. Walk us through the step of actually getting that to the US and then getting that to Amazon.
Yeah, so pretty much the process. Yeah, I mean you're gonna see on Alibaba, MOQ is the acronym for minimum order quantity. And some suppliers will have an MOQ of, say, 3,000 units. And if you're just starting out, you don't want to do that. But when you're contacting suppliers, you want to put off the sense that you don't want to ever say you're brand new to this because that's like a dinner bell for someone if they're not ethical, which you might run into characters like that. But, you don't want to say that you're brand new to this because you want them to take you more seriously. And so you want to be like, oh, I'm the procurement manager or something. And you're tasked with getting this product. And so sometimes you will need to negotiate the MOQ down. A 200 minimum order quantity, the one that you found, that's actually pretty low. But you can usually say, for our first order, we'd like to start at this amount. And so some suppliers might say, that they can't do it, and some others might say they can. But the process would be, you get your sample, and then usually you have to pay the shipping on the sample, but usually they cover the actual cost of the unit. Because usually that's pretty negligible for them. And so that's usually express shipping. It could be anywhere from, maybe like $30 or so, maybe $30-$50. And so again, once you've verified everything and done all your research and this is something you want to go forward with, then you'd say, okay, let's do the order. And there's several different ways you can do payments. I primarily prefer to do PayPal because it's instant, and then I choose PayPal Mass Pay, which is just $20 to send payments internationally. And then again, it's instant versus using like TT or wire transfer, which is, at least for me, through Chase, it's $40 to do those. And then I have to have a different type of bank account that they require certain funds on. But then once you make your payment and the product, the idea is you can use your suppliers. Sorry, that's my dog moaning. I don't know if you heard that.
Thought it was a tuba.
Yeah.
No worries.
I forgot she was in there, to be honest. Anyways, so you got to actually ship the product, right? So once you do that process, you can use your supplier's UPS or DHL account because they're going to have done more volume than you. And I actually haven't done that process myself. People in our mastermind have done that, but and so I don't know, it's familiar. I wanted to, again, go for what's simplest. And so I just found a freight forwarding company. And I can't share the company that I use because it's one that someone else had found. But that's the process in that they have an office in China, and then they go and figure it out. I just tell them the address of where it's going to be picked up at, and they go and pick it up and get it over to the U.S. for me. And then from there, they send it into the FBA warehouses. So that's kind of the process.
Yep. And so how do you find a freight forwarding company? Do you just Google it?
Yeah, you could just Google.
Okay. So it's pretty common. It's not some complicated, huge process. People should be able to find a company to do that without too much trouble then.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be more expensive than using your supplier's UPS typically. Because again, they're taking the workload off of you from doing everything else. But that's, again, everything that I do is, okay, what's the simplest, how can I break this down to be the simplest thing to get results? Because most people listening, quite frankly, will do nothing with this information. Even if they are like, oh, this is definitely what I want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people will say, I'm going to do that or whatever, and then do nothing. But if you want to succeed, it's really important to try and to make it easier on yourself, right? And so that's kind of what I did with this, because at the time I was building this business, I was just doing it on the side while having, at the time, less than 6-month-old twin daughters. And so I have a family to take care of. And then I have 2 other 6-figure businesses that I'm running as well. So for me, it had to be simplest process, right? And so that's kind of another way to do that, is by using the freight forwarding.
Yep, absolutely. So good tips. It makes sense in my mind. I feel like I could actually do this, And so once you get it to Amazon, and again, I'm sure that's a fairly easy process to get involved in the FBA program. You just send it to them and apply and get rocking and rolling once you get your listing up. So, but the hugely critical part of making this business a success is going to be generating the sales and doing the marketing behind that. So why don't you speak to that a little bit, as far as how to get your initial sales, how to get your initial reviews, and we'll dive deeper into the marketing after that, I guess.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways to get reviews for your products. And there's some that are kind of gray area, and those are tactics I don't use, so I don't want to talk about those. But when you're selling your product, you can do a follow-up email sequence to people, just like you might if you have your own product you're selling on your own website. The difference is you don't know the actual email address. You just consent to it. You don't have someone's specific email address on Amazon. And then there are requirements and rules about what you can or can't say to someone. But basically, the process would be when you get sales, you're sending a sequence of emails saying, hey, leave a review on our product, please. You're putting it a different way than that, but that's kind of one way that you're going to be able to drive reviews from the sales that you get. Now those other things, yeah.
Can you actually get those emails into like an autoresponder series, like an email program, or?
No, you can't.
Oh man.
There are.
So you have to do it manually?
No, I mean there's different programs that can automate the email process.
Okay.
So you'd set up your follow-up sequence that are sent to customers on your behalf, but it's not in the traditional sense. Like, you're not going to be able to add these people to your Aweber or Infusionsoft account.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon protects that for good reason. I'm sure I'd get a note if I was on there buying stuff on Amazon, and then I'm getting emails from every single person that I ever bought something from.
Right. Yep. Okay.
So that's why Amazon protects that. But you do have their name, phone number, and address, though.
Gotcha.
So there are different ways you can actually get email addresses with that information. But
okay.
Again, I won't mention that. But yeah, that's the process for some of the reviews would be that. There's also going back to your to driving initial sales.
Mm-hmm.
My strategy was to just price low initially, was to just go with very low margin to help drive more sales. And I got sales fairly organically. Usually it isn't like that. There are other things you might need to do, such as doing promotions of your product, again, maybe at a discount through different types of deal sites to drive initial sales, which can then lead to reviews through your follow-up sequence. And then, ultimately, getting reviews is really important. I can mention, too, I don't know if you want me to, about the AmaSuite review thing, since it's relevant. I mean, I know that we're just kind of free-flowing here, but
no,
so part of the reason why we built this, so we built a tool that actually helps with this, right? So Amazon has on their website a top 10,000 reviewers. And so we built a software that allows you to go through those reviewers and more easily email them and then find out what they're interested in. So if you have a product that's pet-based, then you can search for the keyword pet and then find people that are already reviewing products, and then also see their average review rating too. So you can focus on people that are giving better reviews. And so this is like one very simple way that you could get initial reviews. And I don't, to the best of my knowledge, I've not seen anyone else build something like this. So that's one of the things that we have in AmaSuite, and that's actually a software product we've been doing since 2012.
Yeah, interesting. So let's say you're using AmaSuite and you find people that are giving lots of reviews in your particular category, and they're giving 5-star reviews a lot, they're just positive people, right? So how do you actually go about asking them for a review? Do you just send them an email? Do you send them the product? What do you do?
You pretty much send them an email, and you go from there. For my specific product, I have been up and selling and started getting reviews before I even found this section. Like, I was aware of it, but I wasn't necessarily aware of its marketing potential until I started looking at some of these people and what they review. And so I haven't even had to use it yet for one of my products, but because I'm launching multiple products, I'm going to be trying just this specifically soon. But you basically just email them and say, hey, because I have emailed a few just to see what they would say. And a lot of them too, like, they have email addresses like Amazon reviewer at whatever. So it's like nice. they know what's up, and as a product seller, kind of what's going on there. So it's, they again, now usually it's just you give it as a free product, and then it's disclosed in the review that they got it for free as well. But I mean, here's the thing is that if you have a product that's up and selling, and say 6 months from now, you're getting more natural organic reviews, then those reviews that were from people that got it as a free sample or whatever way before, they're just extra stars in your belt, I guess you could say. And they're not going to necessarily go back and see all those. And even if they do, if you don't have a good product to begin with, you're going to end up getting killed on the reviews anyways. So if you start with a good product and then contact people that would be interested in reviewing it, then you kind of combine two things that are win-win, right? And even too, I didn't want to just pitch AmaSuite and all that, but from the product research standpoint, going back to that category thing, we have a way to go into different categories and extract a bunch of data quickly as well. So if you're thinking about, okay, how do I do this manually, go into Amazon bestsellers, that's another one of the programs that's in there. So
yep, and I actually have used AmaSuite a bit as I've started to at least look into this business. I've pulled up AmaSuite, and it does exactly what you said. It makes the research a lot easier because you can pull up all the category rankings and look at how things are doing on Amazon. So it makes that competitor research a lot easier. And within AmaSuite, there's actually like 3 different tools. Is that right? Or
so there were 3 in that at the time we're recording this. We're just going to be, we're going to be having our 4th version out here before the end of the year. But there's a 4th tool in that. So that's why,
Gotcha.
There were 3 in the one before, but the 4th tool, which is the one talking about the review type tool, that's the new one. And then that's where it's like, because I've been selling on Amazon, originally AmaSuite was kind of more oriented towards affiliates. And that was because that was what my experience was. And so I did a course in there and everything. And then now that it's kind of like, okay, I'm selling on Amazon, and I can see how we can use these tools in a new light, strategies for helping you find keywords for your ads. Amazon has an ability to do automated ads, but I don't really recommend doing that for sponsored ads, that is. But then, you can use another tool that helps you with coming up with keywords for your ads and stuff like that. So basically it's, let's shift this a bit, because now we can kind of target people that are selling on Amazon as well. And quite frankly, the people that are selling on Amazon have more money to spend because they're spending, a lot of money on the inventory and all that. So something as low price as this is an easy sell for them.
Yep, absolutely. So going back to the marketing of the product once you got it listed there. So do you ever do any type of paid traffic, to kickstart? Because I've heard from so many other people, in particular to Kindle ebooks, we've interviewed a couple of people, just how important it is to get an initial set of sales and reviews, because once you do that, your product tends to rank better in Amazon, and that can then generate more natural sales. So what about just paying for traffic to get a bunch of those initial sales? Have you done that, and does that work?
Yeah, so I haven't actually done that. The only thing I've done for paid traffic is Amazon's sponsored ads or product ads. They have a program where you can pay, and that's where the ads show up. When you're searching products, you can see sponsored results. When you click those links, that's when I end up paying.
Gotcha.
But I actually don't even really look at. I only just yesterday looked at my sponsored ads budget or my campaign after 3 weeks of it running. I mean, it's been running for months, but I only just looked at it 3 weeks ago. or yesterday after 3 weeks rather, because it's not something that I spend that much time on. I spend less than $5 a day. My budget's at $15, but I don't think I've ever hit that. And then the only reason why I do that is because there is an organic rankings boost, or at least people claim there's an organic rankings boost when you're spending at least some money on advertising, which makes sense, right? Amazon wants to reward people that make them money and that also spend money. So,
yep, absolutely.
But you can't do that, right? To go back to your point, right? So the other guy that I do the mastermind with that's far more successful, that's what he did initially was AdWords to his products. And then once he started driving enough sales, he just shut off the AdWords campaign and let Amazon kind of keep going after that.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I see it, especially if you do have some money to spend. You know, if you have a marketing budget and maybe you're in a more competitive category, if spending, you know, $1,000 or $2,000 on paid traffic, you know, again, we're talking about people that have the money to spend, if that's going to kick your product onto the first page, you know, instead of the third or fourth or whatever, and that generates those additional sales, I mean, that could pay off big time. I could see potentially. So what other questions should I have asked specifically about marketing, I guess, that we haven't covered quite yet? Is there any other tips or tricks that you have?
I mean, I have this feeling where people that are listening are thinking, man, there's a lot to this, right? And
for sure.
It is, right? It's not as simple as some of the other. I mean, it isn't too difficult, right? Too difficult that's impossible to do. But you know, there's a lot to this business, right? There's a lot of more money at stake because you're buying physical products. You have to deal with lead times and things like that. Like, for example, I ran out of product after I did an initial inventory order of 500. And I ran out. Actually, I was in Disneyland earlier this year, and then I just would check my stats when I got back to my room, riding Space Mountain, all those things, and I'd be like, oh, sweet, I made $100 today from this product that I set up, you know, a few months ago. But yeah, so there's a lot of those different challenges that you have to balance versus software where it's just, okay, selling another software product and it's all just digitally handled. So let me think here. Anyways, what I was saying though is that we kind of free float here, and there are probably some stuff that we missed along the way.
Oh, for sure.
And ultimately, yeah, there's a lot to this. And so, you know, any questions people have, do you know what number the podcast is going to be? So you can just tell people what you're able to tell people what the URL will be or something.
This will be podcast 53. And so, yeah, if people go to nichepursuits.com/podcast 53.
All right. So then I'll say right now, any questions people have, if you go to that URL, I'll be in there hanging out in the comments area to answer questions.
Yep, that's perfect.
But,
yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of other little things. I think we've probably covered most of the big points. And my guess is just like any other business, at least every business that I've been involved in, you really don't learn everything until you just jump in and start doing it. And that is probably the best way to learn for this business as well.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, too, I mean, I said this before, and I know I told you about it, Spencer, but I basically learned from a course because that's what the guy that I had on my podcast, he learned. And I said, okay, I want to learn from the exact same thing you did. It's a paid course. And then so that's what I did. And then we have people in our mastermind that have gone through the course, and we're doing our own event in February where people coming down and we're talking about our businesses and stuff. And so but then there's also two people that are just, they want to go do it by themselves and they want to go that approach. And so, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but that's kind of how I learned and got started.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Perrin, any follow-ups to anything that we've said? Any other questions that maybe you think we missed?
No, I think we covered a lot. There's a lot to think about and a lot to take in, and I'm sure some enterprising Niche Pursuits readers will be diving into the deep end for this stuff.
Yeah. Yep, yeah. I think so. But overall, I mean, just to talk about the potential of this business, I mean, we're talking about real huge businesses here. I mean, I know that we all sort of view Amazon, and we know that Amazon does, sells a lot of product, but a lot of these individual companies selling products are just doing millions of dollars every year. And I know your partner that you've worked with is doing, a ton in sales every year, and I'm sure you know a few other people doing quite well.
Yeah. And actually, one other thing I should mention, and then if it's okay, I'll mention the podcast that I did just solo, going through a lot of questions too. There were a lot of beginner questions. I actually had a list of all the questions that I got from people through comments and all that, and I just walked through them. So if it's just entrepreneurboost.com/podcast22, so just 22. And that's just kind of a walkthrough as well. So if you combine those two things and then also asking questions here on Spencer's podcast comments area, then that should be a pretty good amount of information to get you going. So
absolutely, yeah, I think so. But overall, Chris, I appreciate you coming back on the podcast. It's been a couple of years, and you're doing some interesting things over there. So thanks a lot for sharing your knowledge on Amazon FBA and everything else.
Yeah.
Sorry if it was a little random. I mean, there's just a lot of different things to this, and a lot of different strategies. And but I mean, it's a lot of fun, and it meets the 3 rules I have for businesses: freedom to work wherever I want to, freedom to work whenever I want to, and then ability to scale. Right. So those are the 3 tick boxes that I like to hit for anything I start, and this one meets them, and so that's why I do it.
Yep. Oh. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think everything you covered was really good. We did cover a lot, but I think it will be valuable to listeners. So if anybody wants to follow along with what Chris is doing, you can go to his blog at entrepreneurboost.com. And then, of course, the other URLs that we mentioned throughout the podcast if you have any additional questions. But best of luck to everybody in their business, whether they're trying out this Amazon business or anything else. We wish you luck in all that you do. Thanks a lot.